Hey there, today I'm showing you some more fun ideas for your art journal or sketchbook. So, I've had this sketchbook for the longest time and it's made out of some kind of fabric. At least the cover is made out of this fabric. And I don't really like this sketchbook too much. I know it's in a square format and a lot of people find that cool, so they keep asking me what kind of sketchbook that is. I think it's from the brand Kunst und Papier, which seems to be a German brand because those words are German. But I really don't like the paper quality of it. It was sold as a watercolor paper sketchbook, but I don't think it's a watercolor paper. I'm just trying to fill as many of the unfilled sketchbooks that I have at the moment. It's kind of my goal for 2021 to fill as many of these sketchbooks as I can. And I decided to draw on the cover of it because it has this weird texture, and I don't particularly like the texture of the cover, but it holds Posca pens pretty nicely. It has held up to it, and those are still on there. And if you have a sketchbook or art journal with some kind of fabric texture, I guess Posca pens they work on there, or any acrylic markers, maybe even textile markers. I just figured that they wouldn't be as opaque, but I've never tried those. Maybe you could even do fabric paint or something like that. Or you could try Posca markers on any other sketchbook. You just have to make sure that they actually stay on there, because a sketchbook might be carried to places and might be put from one location to the other, and so it has to be durable. So I recommend just doing a tiny little dot. I did some tiny little hearts on the back of the sketchbook, and then I just made sure that it would stay on there, and then I was good to go. And I did this magical, fantastical landscape on there. It's kind of like night and day at the same time, and just a fun little illustration. I didn't look at any references, just doodled what came to my mind. I think it's fun. I don't know. It may be a lot for a sketchbook cover. I kind of wish that I would have included like the word sketchbook or something like that. But I think it's cool. I think it's a cute idea. And if I ever stumble upon a sketchbook with this kind of texture again, I'd definitely love to decorate it. But I've never done that because I just don't want the paint to rub off later if I have like a very smooth textured sketchbook. So here you can see I'm just adding in more layers to make it a little bit more opaque. And I think the sketchbook kind of ate the ink of the Posca pens, but it wasn't too bad. And I had a lot of fun with that one. So go ahead and decorate your sketchbooks. I just wanted to very quickly mention that I also have two Skillshare classes for sketchbook ideas. The one is watercolor sketchbook practices for beginners. So if you really want to focus on watercolors and are a complete beginner, that's the class for you. And the other is how to fill a sketchbook from start to finish. That one includes a lot of ideas and how to actually fill the sketchbook. And people seem to have enjoyed that class a lot. So I will link those two classes and all my other Skillshare classes for you. Make sure to check them out if you're interested in more content like this and if you want to see a real class about it. For the next one, I have these neon watercolors, and I just recommend using the brightest watercolors that you have, or you can even invest in a neon watercolor set like I did. This is from an Etsy seller called Teapot Design, I believe. I'm gonna link the shop and the products in the description box. I'm gonna link all of the materials that I use that I can find in the description box as always. And I really really loved the watercolors. I haven't used them a lot, just for this piece and the little swatches that you saw in the beginning, but they're super bright, as you could see in the swatches. I think my phone camera picks up the colors even better than my camera. And they're very, very neon, and I think that they complement any watercolor set really nicely, because those are super bright colors. I'm just sure that those aren't light fast, because neon watercolors tend to be super fugitive and not be light fast at all. In case you're wondering why the green looks weird, it is because a little bit of the packaging stuck to it, and I had to get rid of that later in order for the green to work properly, but it wasn't a problem at all, so no big deal. I put all of the pens in my own little watercolor palette, even if they came in this cute wooden box, but I just didn't want to ruin the wooden box with all the water that came from the watercolors. So if you buy all of the neon colors, I think then you get this wooden box included. And I found the box really cute. I'm probably gonna use it for something else. And I had this tiny little palette, so I just put it in there just to be sure not to ruin the wooden palette. And I just did the first layer with the neon watercolors, and then I went over with some watercolor pencils just to give everything more definition, and yeah, just to make it a little bit more in focus. And yeah, I really love how this piece turned out. It's so bright. It's much brighter in person than it is on camera. And yeah, the idea here is to just use the brightest colors that you have. Use neon watercolors. Maybe you have some very, very bright colors in the sets that you already have, or you're gonna invest in some new watercolors. I really recommend the Etsy seller, because you're gonna promote a small business. They were super happy that I ordered them. I don't think they knew that I was gonna do a little review on the paints. So I love to support small businesses like that. So here you can see how they looked afterwards. Like I said, the green needed a little bit of love afterwards, but it was fine. I just removed the stickiness. And for the next one, we have some watercolors again. This is not what it says on the box. It says Pastel Dreams, and it includes pastel watercolors, yes, but not the original pastel watercolors that were in there. I once did a review on the Prima Confections watercolors, the Pastel Dreams set, and I really love the colors, and I still have them. I just put them in my bigger palette. Here you're gonna see my masking fluid, which always dries up like that. I'm not the best with masking fluid, and honestly, I kind of started to hate it a little bit. I don't know. I don't use it a lot anymore. So here you can see I'm painting these pastel little landscapes, and the watercolors that I did put in there now are all from the brand St. Petersburg, or White Nights, and I love the White Nights. I love the little palette that I already had, and I reached out to them and asked if they have any more fun products for me to try, and they sent me all of these pastel colors. I was super happy because I love pastel colors, and I don't know if these are more like gouache or watercolors, because due to the fact that they are pastel, they are pretty opaque, so they felt like somewhere in between gouache and watercolors, and they are pretty opaque, but I loved them. They have this super smooth consistency. They just feel so nice when you paint with them, and they just sent me a bunch of random colors. Some of them were in pans and some of them were in tubes, and the ones that were in tubes, I just put them into pans because I'm that kind of person. Yes, I put everything into a palette, even if it's not supposed to be in there. But yeah, I just tested all of these colors and I love them a lot. To be honest, I haven't even looked up if they are selling those yet, but I will, and I will link them as best as I can in the description box in case you want to check them out. But there are a lot of pastel watercolors out there, and if you don't have pastel watercolors and don't want to invest in a set like this, I totally get it. You can just get Chinese white or white gouache, just one white paint tube, and mix it in with your regular watercolors, and you will achieve a very similar result. I did that before I got gouache and it worked kind of nicely, honestly. It is like pastel colors then. You just mix white in, and it is a lot of fun to play around with because you get a very different consistency than if you would just dilute your colors down, and if you would just use less paint and more water, you'd get a different look compared to when you use pastel watercolors. So I really love to work with them. Those pieces, they do kind of lack a little bit of contrast, but I loved the challenge and I love what they look like. I love this cotton kind of feel, that the cotton candy kind of feeling that they give me. And this is just the first page in my sketchbook now, because I never do that at first. I always do that later on. I just want to get started on like the second or third page and then do the first page later on, because the first page just gives me so much pressure. And here you can see those two little paintings. They are very, very simple. I just kept them super simple. And then I decided to also decorate the page on the left, and I still had all of these amazing stickers. I believe those are from Arlebean and from Mini Small, because I was their Patreon supporter, or am from Mini Small, I think. I'm still, but I'm gonna cancel my Patreon subscriptions probably soon because I'm overflowing with stuff now. But I really enjoy all of these fun things in the mail. It's a lot of fun. And yeah, I just used those stickers and then I doodled some more greenery around them, and that's just the page on the left. It doesn't have watercolor paper. I just wanted to decorate it so that it would look more fun. And I think for a first page, what can you hope for? It looks fine. And then I used the black Van Gogh watercolor paper that I've already used a few times now, and cut it into size, put it in my Canson XL Mixed Meteor sketchbook like I've done before. And then I used the Van Gogh, the metallic watercolors, and those are so fun to use, especially with the black paper. Here you can see those colors. They're so shimmery and fun, and I just love those so much. They give me so much joy. I love to paint with them. I'd love to do more with them, and I just painted those loose watercolor florals, and I painted them similarly like I would on white paper with regular watercolors. Just the added effect of them being sparkly on black paper makes this so much more fun and exciting. And a lot of those colors are metallic. A lot of them seem to be pearlescent, or I don't know all those words, but they look differently and they're fun. Some of them are brighter, some of them just add a little bit of glitter, and I just doodled those flowers and later on made the page even more interesting. You're gonna see it. Here I'm just painting the leaves, and here you can see it in a different light setting. It looks completely different because it shimmers differently. And now you can see that I started to add some lines and some stars, and I used a Stella metallic marker. And I just wish it was a little bit thinner. I think that it looks a little bit too thick on here, but that's the only metallic marker that I had on hand, I think. So I used that one and made some constellations and some fun things, and I love how it turned out. This was so much fun, and I really recommend experimenting a little bit with more different materials. And I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did so, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.